Hi everyone. So I am gonna record tonight. It's Tuesday, June the 11th in the evening. I'm gonna record the little video that I promised around the book review because some of you are stressing. You will see there's nothing to stress about, but you did want clarifications, and I've given you a PowerPoint which I've put in between the assignments. And I'm also going to record this because it might be easier for some of you to listen to the video instead of reading the PowerPoint. So you'll get even more clarifications this way. So the objective today is very simple: explain and unpack the book review assignment. So if you go back to your 611 course, which you did with me, we did learn how to do a critical review of a journal article. And if you can recall, we had come up with sort of a checklist structure for for such an assignment, and not just an assignment. It's something we do in real life. So such a task, basically, which is a typical academic task. So I'll run you through it again. You would normally summarize the goals of the study and its content. You would then assess the quality and pertinence of the literature review, and this really follows the same structure that you followed for your proposal, right? And then you assess each part. You'd assess the choice of theory if it is explicit. Sometimes it's not, and it's more difficult. But if the author mentions theory, then you would assess the choice of theory. You would then assess the choice of methodology and its hands-on use. You would then normally after methodology comes the analysis of the data. You would assess the analysis of the data. You would review the findings and examine if the goals of the studies are met, right? In first section, you summarize the goals, and this is the point where you go back and say, well, are the findings satisfactory in light of the goals which were set by the study? And then additionally, and you can do this at any point, you would at the beginning or at the end or in the middle, you could rate accessibility and readability of the language and writing. So how accessible and how readable is it for the target audience? So the book review, if we look at it generally, sort of follows the same pattern. So it just adapts it a little bit. So I've used the same headings, and then I've shown you how it's the same aim, but just sort of amended slightly to target the whole book as opposed to just a 5,000 word article. So summarize the goals in the study of the study and its content becomes summarize the aim of the book and concisely describe its content. So what is it trying to do, and what does it actually contain? And this might mean describing briefly its structure. Is it long? Is it short? How many chapters does it have? Is it just one author? Is it multiple authors? That's where you would be doing that. Then, what was in the study assess the quality and pertinence of the literature review becomes examine the relevance of the literature it relies on. So it's not necessarily going to be a literature review, but every book relies on literature. And again, this could be pertinent, non-pertinent, old, dated, up to date, highly relevant, poor, rich. There's lots of ways that you're going to be able to assess the literature that it relies on. Assess the choice of theory. If it's explicit, that would be exactly the same. If a book actually has an explicit theoretical framework, you would actually, or lens, you would actually explain that. The next in the study was assess the choice of methodology and its hands-on use. There's no methodology in the book, but its process. So examine its process. How does it function, and how is it structured? We're not manipulating data here because it's not a study. It's not data that we're collecting and then we're analyzing, but we're suddenly collecting ideas and concepts and then analyzing them, structuring them in a certain way. So how is this achieved? Is this a sound process? Obviously, the book tries to get you from A to Z. Does it do that in a logical way? Does it do that in a way that's conceptually sound? Or is it all over the place? So this is the point where you explain that. And in the study, you had assessed the analysis of the data. Here becomes examines its assertions because it's trying to tell you something. It's trying to put a message through. So is that message sound? Is it logical? Is it brought forward in a way that's analytical and conceptually acceptable? Are its conclusions sort of do they make sense, and are they brought to you in a way that is progressive and is constructive? In a study, you had to review findings and examine its goal, examine if the goals of the study are met. Here would be, did the book achieve its goal? So you go back to, again, the book had a goal, you summarize it and see whether it's actually been achieved. And additionally, rate accessibility and readability of language. That's exactly the same. But you would keep in mind the target audience, because a book usually has a very specific target audience. A study might be for the general public, but a book is normally trying to actually express its message or communicate its message to a specific target. Maybe specialists in a certain area, or teachers, higher ed university professors, researchers. It actually has chosen a target, so you see whether it actually meets the needs of its target. In this particular assignment, we're going to tweak it a little bit because we're within a course. So obviously we're going to do a little more adaptation so it really fits perfectly well within the course objective. The first one doesn't change. The second one I've tweaked a little bit to help you. Examine the relevance of literature it relies on. See if any implicit connections are made to the content which we touched on in this course. By this time, you've read the book and you know that it doesn't really put itself forward as an academic book. So it doesn't use literature, but it obviously uses some of it implicitly. So what implicit connections can you make between the literature that seems to be used implicitly and what we've seen in the course? The next one was assess choice of theory. Again, it's implicit here, but can you see one leadership theory as more visible or more present in the book? Why? It may be implicit, and what they told you it is implicit, and the authors don't sort of cite these theories. But it's your job to make them explicit. And the rest are exactly the same, except at the end, is it written in a way that makes it palatable and useful for its target audience? And target audience are specifically teachers. So that's your context within which to make that assessment. So I hope this is useful. There's the last caveat here. I'm going to read it rather than try and sort of summarize it. Remember that in academia, critical reviews, journal articles, and books must remain courteous. It represents an unspoken rule. You review people who may in turn review you. You may review people who one day will sit next to you at a conference or an event. So you always remain polite and positive. It's a really unspoken rule in academia. The tone must always remain polite, balanced, and constructive. Any harsh criticism, therefore, must be wrapped in cotton wool, so to speak, and worded softly. Even if it's disastrous, right? If you remember, I think we did that in 611. Even if something really has no methodology, you were not going to say this has no methodology. You're going to say the reader remains perplexed as to the tools, the methodological tools that allow the author to bring forward his assertions. So you're not going to say it outright. You're going to try and make it sound less harsh. And importantly, one adapts the structure of the review so as to end with something encouraging and positive, especially if it's been something that's not so good, but you do have one of these items that are positive, then you would drag that item probably to the end so that you finish on a positive note. That's, you have a fair degree of flexibility. All these elements need to be there. You don't always need to follow them linearly. I would suggest that when you start off, it's probably really helpful to follow them linearly. As you get more comfortable and with writing this elegantly, you will feel quite comfortable taking something positive and actually covering it at the end so you finish on the plus. And you always do that systematically, even if it's a book you've not liked or you don't feel particularly positive about. So I hope this helps. I'm available for questions, obviously, and don't hesitate, but it's late, so I'm going to post that now so you have it. And when you wake up tomorrow, which is only like 3 hours for you, and I'm about to go to bed. It's funny being on a different time zone now. So I wish you a good night, and I'll speak to you very soon.